Well, it certainly wasn't the typical Lakers roster you're used to seeing, and it wasn't the typical Lakers Celtics game you're used to seeing, or the typical finish you might be used to seeing. But the Celtics did what they set out to do, which is beat LA. You can put the hashtag in there, right? This is the hashtag symbol. And they make it a perfect 3-0 road trip on top of a 5-game winning streak now, and they're really rolling. Up until the end of this game, the Celtics were playing tremendous basketball all game long. It's only when the bench came in, the end of the bench came in, that they started to really falter and completely piss away their lead. Which is we're going to talk about in a second. And it's certainly going to have Brad Stevens evaluating those guys in a negative light at the end of the bench. But let's talk about the things they did well and how they've gotten to this point where just a week ago we were talking about, oh crap, this road trip out in the West, Denver, Portland, LA. Man, they'd be lucky to take a game out of that. Well, they take all three, and now you're talking about 5 wins in a row headed back to Boston and a date with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors coming up. So, yeah, Leonard, you were wrong about the road trip, but you know what? So was everybody. No one thought the Celtics were going to go 3-0 on this road trip. I don't even think the Celtics thought that. So, you don't have to take a big L on that one. It was unexpected, and it does really seem like the team has found something in themselves to either motivate them or to that's finally clicked to the point where they're playing so much better. We've talked about this in the past couple of wins. They're moving the ball a lot better. Jason Tatum's being a lot more aggressive. That role was Jaylen Brown tonight, who was unbelievably great. I mean, one of maybe his best games as a Celtic. He was dominant tonight. He looked every bit like the All-Star he was. He looked like an All NBA level player. The starters were all good, all contributing. It didn't seem like there was really any issues with shot selection after a quick sort of figuring out period of time. And they really deferred to Jalen, who was the hot hand. The bench again was another story. But this Lakers team, certainly, it's not an indication of what the Lakers team are like in the playoffs. I still have them as the team that's going to get out of the West. In fact, I feel no less confident in that than I did at the beginning of the season. I think these injuries to LeBron and AD are relatively minor. It's probably for the best that they're getting more rest. I think that the injuries, in fact, have been way overhyped and over talked about because they're really just kind of sneaky ways. Listen, LeBron and AD, I'm sure they are slightly banged up, but certainly with the LeBron injury, it's something that I think he has and can play through. But he's choosing to get the rest and be at 100% for the playoffs, which is smart. I mean, that's what he should do, and that's what AD should do. They should be fully healthy and fully rested for the playoffs, and they'll be a completely different team. And you didn't even see Andre Drummond tonight, so this is a shell of a Lakers team. So it's not like the Celtics were playing really good competition, but they were playing again that 10 o'clock start which for them is a 10 o'clock start, 7 o'clock on the West Coast. Third game of a road trip where you get a little bit tired and fatigued. You are playing your rival in the Lakers, so it did look like a game that could be a potential trap game. The Lakers were sort of hanging around, and then the Celtics really took over until the end when the bench came in and they pissed away almost their whole lead. But you've seen in these wins against Denver and then Portland and then tonight against LA, the Celtics haven't made necessarily the same sort of mistakes over and over again where they've dug themselves into massive holes. They did that a little bit against Denver, but less so than in the past, and they obviously made the comeback complete. With Portland and tonight against LA, the Celtics didn't do that, and that's a big reason why they won is because when you don't put yourself in a gigantic hole to start and you continue to play good basketball, and the Celtics have been a better second half team than the first half team often this season, which sounds weird because you think of them blowing leads, but it's actually been the truth. So when you play well for 4 quarters of a game, it's amazing how much more you win. So let's go into the box score tonight, and then we'll rip on the bench before we get out of here. Starters tonight: Ward, Jason Tatum, Tristan Thompson, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Fournier was out because of health and safety COVID protocols. Rob Williams had like a calf inflammation, something like that going on. It seems like it's just day to day, and they're being cautious. So I would expect him to be back for the next game. Tatum had 14 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 2 of 5 from three, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Solid game for Jason Tatum. Nice to see him not have to play 30 plus minutes. Efficient. Just again, a lot of these guys were deferring to Jaylen Brown, who had played 32 minutes, finished with 40 points. An incredible plus 36 on the night was his plus minus. That is just a massive number. 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 17 of 20 from the floor, and 3 of 5 from three. One of those was a half court heave. So really, it was 16 of 19 if you take out the heave. Does that make sense? No. 17 of 19. I don't know. It's too late for me to be figuring that out. Anyhow, 17 of 19. That makes more sense. Leonard, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, that's just an incredibly, ridiculously efficient night from Jaylen Brown. Like I said, maybe his best game in his career. Marcus Smart, 32 minutes for him, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. Really good defense, 3 of 6 from the floor, 5 of 8 from three. Really did a good job on Schroeder tonight. Didn't let him get going. I know Schroeder was injured, but he's still a dangerous player, and Smart did a good job. Defensively, as you would expect, Kemba Walker, 25 minutes, 12 points for him, 7 assists, 2 rebounds, 4 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 3 from three. Efficient. That's what you want from Kemba Walker. Tristan Thompson, I thought, played excellent, getting put back in the starting lineup tonight because Rob was out. He finishes with 25 minutes, 14 points, 5 assists, which is a high number for him, a block, and 6 rebounds. Some solid defense, was really good down low in the trenches. Being physical, making the Lakers work for rebounds, and did a nice job for some putbacks. So good physicality by him. Best player of the bench tonight by far, Peyton Pritchard. He gave you 20 minutes. He was 5 of 11 from the floor, 3 of 6 from three, 7 rebounds, which is crazy because he's like 5'11", 3 assists and 15 points. So Peyton Pritchard can at least say he played well off the bench. The rest of the bench, it was ugly, but ugly. If you look at those plus minus numbers, you're going to see some ugly stuff. You know what? I forgot about him. Luke Cornett. I'm not going to rip on him. He played well tonight. Luke Cornett, another bench guy who played well. 18 minutes, 1 of 4 from the floor. Those were all threes. He did have 4 blocks, though, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. So he played solid off the bench. Credit to Luke Cornett for being ready. He hadn't played in a little bit. Played well tonight. But the other guys, it was just blech. Tremont Waters did something I didn't even know was possible. He played 4 minutes and finished with a minus 17. That means in his 4 minutes of playing time, the Lakers outscored the Celtics by 17 points. That's ridiculous. Carson Edwards had a minus 18 in 7 minutes. Mo Wagner had a minus 20 in 5 minutes. Aaron Nesmith, minus 17 in 4 minutes. Semi Ojeleye, a minus 17 in 4 minutes. The bench was just a freaking disaster. It was a car wreck. It was a car wreck into a dumpster fire full of dirty diapers in slow motion. It was terrible. And Brad Stevens, I tweeted this out, it's got to be extremely disappointed in the way that end of the bench played and evaluating those guys too. I thought that it would be, even though he didn't play as much with the end of the bench guys, I thought it would be a good time to see if Romeo Langford could get any offense going. He didn't really move on offense and then got subbed out. And then nobody helped at the end of the bench there. It was terrible. Bad offense, bad defense, turnovers, bad decision making. It was just a disaster. So the starters had to come in to rescue and salvage this game. Jaylen Brown did the rescuing and salvaging as he did all game long. And the Celtics got out of there with a win that was should have been a blowout, but instead they win by 8 points, 121 to 113. And you end the road trip 3-0. Nice 5-game win streak now. And heading back to Boston, where they on Saturday will play the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry, who has been on a freaking tear recently. That's on national TV, 8:30 on ABC. And they have a tough schedule coming up. Golden State's no easy team. Chicago a lot better now with Vucevic and Zach LaVine, who could fill it up. Phoenix, who's been playing the best basketball in the league, and Brooklyn. So you got 4 quality opponents in a row right now with that 5-game win streak on the line. We'll see what the Celtics are made of. These next 4 games, I think, will be extremely telling And if you thought that the road trip was telling of what their team is, this is an even better test because you're playing some really quality teams here. So we'll see what the Celtics are made of, and hopefully we don't have to see that end of the bench unit anymore. I'd like to see maybe some cuts at the end of the bench unit, bring back Isaiah Thomas. I know some people are clamoring for it. I'd like to see it. He cannot possibly be worse than what we saw tonight, and it would be a great feel-good story. I think it would help the chemistry of the team too. So that's what I would like to see. Listen, he doesn't have to play a big role. It would just be nice to have him back in green. We know he loves it here. We know he appreciates it. We know the guys on the team loved him when he was here. The fans love him, and it just cannot possibly be worse than what we saw from the end of the bench tonight. And Tremont Waters running the point and Carson Edwards. That was just awful, 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 awful. But I'm sure they'll have great European careers or Israeli league or Chinese league by the time they're all said and done playing basketball. Just not as a Celtic, please. So beat LA. That always feels good. You always want to beat your rival, regardless of what the rosters are looking like. Just as a side note, this is what more close to what the Lakers should actually look like than what they are, which is a championship contender if they were playing in any other market but LA, because they haven't made competent decisions or really great draft picks. They should be a middle to bad team. They should have Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, maybe Julius Randle, though they chose to just let him walk, Josh Hart, and whatever picks they had the past couple of years. They didn't make good decisions or set up a good culture to get LeBron James. He just wanted to play basketball in LA because it's a nice place to live. He had a house there already. He had other business interests there. It's so frustrating to me that a team that makes incompetent decisions can, fall ass backwards into a championship because of where they're located. Whereas the Celtics have to kind of do everything right in order to get to that spot. And still, they could do a lot of things right and not be at that spot. So that's just me venting. That's another show for another day. Not really a post-game rant, but man, I hate the Lakers. I hate them so much. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Comment. I'll always comment back. I appreciate all of you every time you're in the chat, every time you watch, whether it's live or after the show, or after I release it, rather. And now I'm rambling because it's 12:50. I don't even know if effing time it is anymore. And I'm tired. So I'm going to end it. I'm going to say I'll see you after the Warriors game. And we'll see if the Celtics can keep that streak alive, move it to 6 games, and beat another quality team. So I'll see you after that game, everybody. Thanks.